Mama Santana was known all over the village of Wazobia as the best cook. Her meals consist of white soup pepper soup eaten with 2 wraps of Santana. It was the most profound meal many men, women, boys and girls have tasted in the village of Wazobia. Every bite of Mama Santana's pepper soup was a story. Not long after she started her restaurant in Wazobia village, the fame of her renowned meal spread across the length and breadth of Wazobia. Each bowl of her white soup pepper soup was filled with assorted kinds of meat. It was a tantalizing soup readily served to her customers' delight. The meat tasted sweet and succulent, and with each swallow of Santana, there is an accompanying meat that practically tastes out of this world. Once a customer has tasted Mama Santana's meal, there is no going back. Many customers end up inviting more people to come and share their delightsome experience. One day, one of the king's guard went to Mama Santana's shop to eat her white soup pepper soup and Santana. He then came back to the palace, narrating his delightsome experience at Mama Santana's place. The very next day, Okoli, the king's guard, was there again. He ate some more and even carried some as takeaway to the king. Here, my king, is the most delicious soup you will ever taste. The king laughed it off, saying, "Which soup will be sweeter than that prepared in this palace?" But one day, even the king's wife, Lolo Egodi, tasted of Mama Santana's soup and decided to buy a takeaway for her husband, the king. The king tasted it and saw for himself how flavorful, delicious, and mouth-watering Mama Santana's food was. "This is simply irresistible," the king said, commanding his servants to buy him a plate of the white soup pepper soup every day. Every day, Mama Santana will arrive with a large cooking pot, waiting to serve her eager customers. Soon, 2 long lines will form, one for those being served and the other for those who are washing their plates. Most of her customers does not mind standing on the queue to wash their plates before they are served. The king's guard will set out early every morning so that he can buy the king a plate of Mama Santana's mouth-watering meal. Mama Santana's food was not only mouth-watering, but was also affordable. Her plate of white soup pepper soup was filled with large pieces of fresh, soft, and succulent meats. Some of the villagers, however, began to wonder where she gets her meat from. But how does she manage to make profits with the large portion of meat she dishes, they will ask. Some villagers, especially those who are into restaurant business, could not imagine the source of her meat. One day, Ugo and Mona met together after a particularly long day. Ugo, Mona said, "Did you see how Mama Santana had simply closed down our businesses in a matter of months?" "I was about asking you the same question," replied Ugo. "What makes me wonder is how she manages to get meat for these large portions she dishes. Some have rumored that the village hunters gives her a large supply of bush meat with which she cooks her pepper soup. I have gone to the village hunters and they told me it is a lie. How can I sell my catches so cheaply after laboring in the bush all night?" they say. Despite her sudden popularity, Mama Santana remained a mystery to the people of Wazobia village. No one knows where she lives or where she comes from. The popularity of her food, however, overshadowed the curiosity of those who wanted to find out. The villagers will often laugh at Ugo and Mona when they came forward to suggest that Mama Santana was evil. One day, Mona's husband, Shegun, was indignant at her. That you do not sell your own pepper soup should not make you burn with jealousy, Mona. I have tasted Mama Santana's pepper soup, and I tell you that it is simply irresistible, Shegun said. The next day, Shegun called Mona aside, offering her words of advice. Not everyone must be as talented as Mama Santana in cooking, Shegun said. I am not talking about her culinary skills. Rather, I am talking about the source of her meat, cut in Mona. We are saying the same thing here, Mona. If she cooks in such a large quantity, don't you think she will have huge discounts from the butchers? One day, Mona summoned courage to ask Mama Santana the source of her meat. But to this, she replied, "You village gossip, can't you find your own secret to your own business?" In the midst of all this, the village of Wazobia began to experience what they had never experienced before. Every day, children who went to Wazobia football field to play football will disappear. First was a little boy named Chima, then another little boy named Chinedu, and then yet another boy. Parents became afraid to send out their children to the Wazobia football field to play ball again. Yet, some more news of children's disappearances also spread from the other villages too. One day, as Mama Santana sold her food quickly, she packed her large pots and big bag and carried it on her head, walking briskly through the village market. Mona followed her quickly, trying to know where she went. To her greatest surprise, she lost track of her. More determined than ever, the next day, Mona followed her again. This time around, being more careful not to lose track of her. As Mona walked deep into the forest, she suddenly became afraid. Is this not the notorious evil forest? Mona wondered. What is Mama Santana doing here? As she was about turning back, she saw Mama Santana enter inside the cave in the forest. She followed her gently, hiding behind the large tree trunks. As she brought out her head to peep around, to her greatest amazement, Mama Santana put down her large bag, and from it, she brought out two children, bound hand and foot. She threw the children into a hole close to the cave and went farther inside the cave. Mona was baffled at what she saw. She knew that those children are in danger. She quickly went to bring a fallen log from the nearby tree. She placed it inside the hole before jumping inside. As she entered the large hole, she untied the children's hands and feet, motioning to them to be quiet. She then carried them on her shoulder one by one until their hands can reach the outside of the hole. The children stood there outside. As Mona used the large log of wood as support, she slanted it across the hole as she used it as a support to come out. Now outside the hole, she held the hands of both of the children as they ran through the bush until they reached the king's palace. Mona immediately went straight to the king's palace, knocking at the gate. There at the gate, the king's guard opened up the door for her. The king was summoned as Mona narrated her ordeal to him. The king summoned the great warriors of the Wazobia village who invaded the evil forest looking for Mama Santana. Mama Santana had finished refreshing herself. She came out to kill the children she had kidnapped to prepare her pepper soup in the early hours of the morning. When she found out that they were missing, she quickly packed her things, but as she was about running away, the warriors of Wazobia village caught up with her. They beat her blue and black, demanding she calls out the others that she worked with. She then took them to the Wazobia field. There at the road that led from the Wazobia football field into the bush. There, they saw a small hut. As they entered the hut, to their amazement, more children had been tied hands and feet, waiting for the next day pepper soup. They captured them and they narrated their story. Once we see any child sent out on an errand, we will call them and offer them biscuits and snacks. Then, as they follow us further into our huts, we will bundle them and lock them inside. In the morning, the whole village of Wazobia were summoned at the king's palace. The king then made his speech, saying, "Not all that glitters is gold." Every one of us had been led astray by the sweetness of Mama Santana's mouth-watering pepper soup, not knowing that we have been busy eating our own children. Mama Santana and her accomplice were paraded before the entire village. Many of the villagers spat on them, while others cast a stone on them. They were all sorry to have been deceived by Mama Santana's sweet and cheap food that they did not ask about the sauce. The king then commanded the guards to put them in prison, where they will serve a life sentence. Meanwhile, Mona was praised for her bravery. She was the only person who cared enough to know the source of her mouth-watering pepper soup. She bravely followed her into the bush and rescued 4 of their children. In one day, Mona was rewarded as the king opened a big restaurant for her. It is pertinent we all know the source of what goes into our mouths in this village, said the king. Therefore, Mona had been appointed the head of all restaurant chefs in Wazobia village. She is to inspect their shops and also know the source of the meat they buy. Hence, we end up eating our own meat in this village, said the king. Hey friends, what are your takes on this amazing tale? Please do share with us and kindly subscribe as we load you with lots of amazing tales from African Tales by Oma. Bye for now.